Good evening and welcome to Life is People. We were just discussing, and I'm going to let Jen carry on about the backstory behind K Dog. So go on, Jen, carry on.
Well, it's not so well. Okay, so the backstory behind K Dog is that he was a dope sniffing dog that worked for the police in Colorado, but he was forced into early retirement through the legalization of marijuana in the United States. And you can't untrain a dog to sniff out weed, which is, what he's been employed to do by the police department. And so because they can't untrain him, he basically becomes useless to the police department thanks to legalization. Although he did pick up a very friendly weed habit while he was in service. And so, having being forced to retire entirely too young, then he has to find something to do with himself. And so he is what you would call a private nose. So he no longer works for the police department. He still has all the skills he had. He just no longer is employed by the police department. And now he's figuring out who he really is and not just who he is in service. And so, K Dog, that's who K Dog is. And Raldo and I have created him. We've his the con he was conceived, I believe it was January 7th, maybe the 17th. Either the 10th, the 7th, or the 17th in January of, I think, 2017. And I was coming back from an event. I was writing for something called THC Magazine back then in Denver, but I was living in Durango. And I had gone up to this big event in Denver. I think it was the Christmas party for the magazine. And I was driving back, and I stopped at a dispensary along the way, and I got for the first time something called Green Hornet gummies.
Okay.
And as I was leaving the dispensary, and getting ready to eat the gummies in the car like you're not supposed to do, I wasn't driving, for the record. I look up, and all along the parking lot, every parking space has a sign that says "Keep dogs off grass." And I just found it hilarious because I was at a marijuana dispensary, and so then the idea came from dogs on grass, and keep dogs off grass is KDOG, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was part of it as well. It was a whole big thing, and then but I think Raldo drew him for the first time in January of 2017. um and we've been working on him off and on ever since. And if it were up to Raldo, it would always be on. Um, but life gets in the way for me sometimes, and we haven't been working on him, for a while. But he pops back in every once and again, and he's going to be a huge portion of the Crazy book, which will get published after the Crime book. But anyway, so that's K Dog, and then my dog is Kilo, and in real life, so to speak. Um, so he's not actually K Dog, but he came into my life, based on K Dog for sure. And now we just have a whole bunch of comics to write around legalization and changing laws, and dogs and masters. And so what I was saying before we went live is that my dog Kilo inspired me recently to write a short story by asking the question, wait a minute, what if my dog really is a cop? Because I was thinking about when they go through the Humane Society, they basically get their balls chopped off and they get microchipped. And what a better way to study humanity than for the government to actually pretend to be a dog. Now, my dog is still my dog, with or without the microchip, right? And I'm not saying the government is listening, but what I did was explore, a storyline, for what a short story about something like that might look like. I have to be real careful with my stories because, and I have to make it clear, no, wait a minute, I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying what if,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you have to kind of come to terms with it like any good stoner, comes to terms with paranoia. You
Hmm.
know, this thing that you're afraid of. Okay, could it be true? Yes. Might it be true? I don't know. And for me personally, the best way that I've found to deal with paranoia is to simply go, well, what if it is true? Fuck it. Let's see what happens. Because I mean, how much control do I really have? Okay, let's say the government is listening to me right now through my dog. You know, maybe let's say that's true. Well, it's not gonna, I can't let that change anything. What am um, and then so then it just becomes a creative, a creative writing project where, I have these crazy little thoughts, and then I go, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but for creative purposes, let's say it were. Let's say it were true.
Exactly. Do you know, do you know,
Anyway.
do you know the fascinating thing about what you've just been speaking about, Jim? Like, going through my mind when you've been talking about it, was thinking, again, it's like creativity inspires creativity, which, there's always those what if questions that us, maybe as creative people, we spend more time contemplating than most people. But I'm just thinking in my head then, like, and it's been sort of like a joint sort of synergy how I've been sort of thinking the last few weeks anyway. But you know how we live in a society where, like you said, in essence, we are being listened to. I'm not going to go into the whole, line of things that the government know about us through everything.
Right.
But I'm thinking the one thing that maybe is kind of not spoken about is, and I've been thinking about this recently, about how much our dreams are being stolen. Now, this goes back to an old thought that I read back when I was reading some of the guys who coded like metaverse and stuff like that when they were starting VR. And the whole idea was like, to be truly sentient, you need to get into the idea of dreams, because they can't, even now they can't fully understand what dreams are. Are they just recollections or whatever it is? But the human dream, you talk to most people in generally, and they can't remember the last time they had a dream. And I was thinking, yeah, if you have a dog, like you've probably seen, Witness of Kilo, they just dream all the time. They get on his back and then they're off they go, their legs are going. And I'm thinking, two questions that went off on the tangent I was speaking, like, well, what was if they were seeing what the dogs dreamt, to sort of, experiment how they could push, metaphysics more on it, doing that. But equally, how much insight could a dog's dream give you? I was thinking, like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't know, but it's fascinating. Like, on the, it's kind of like, goes to the heart of what you were talking about then, and like probably a bit like Hunter S. Thompson stuff, about how we live in this reality that we're told every day is more and more online, more and more, like you said before we went live, just being in nature is like almost this bigger general narrative against nature. We can invent nature, we can be anything we want to be. And I'm thinking it's that war on nature and that war on dreams is a big thing that, animals, they haven't got to that level yet, because every animal I've ever seen, that's why I sort of see sentience going right down to the smallest creature, because I've seen dogs have dreams, I've seen cats have dreams, I've seen, well, dream-like tendencies. They're definitely enjoying it and smile on their face and stuff. So I was just wondering, again, that's just kicked off of what you're saying. What would be your initial thoughts on that kind of general premise?
Well, I absolutely understand the thought process. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I named my dog Kilo, which in Hawaiian is daydreamer or stargazer or observer. And I observe him constantly. And I constantly wonder what he's thinking about, and I watch him dream as well. And so I definitely understand the thought process.
So what would
and
you
and
what,
also it's like I was talking about earlier before we started recording, is not knowing his story. They tell me that they think he was about a year and a half old when I took him home, which was in March. But they're not sure. They don't know where he came from, they don't know when he was born, they don't, they gave him the name at the shelter, they gave him the name Finn, like Finnegan.
Mhm.
So and then we ended up, changing his name to Kilo. But I don't
Yeah,
know where he's been, and I don't know what he's thinking, and I don't know what he's dreaming.
Finnegan, good
Um,
Irish dog.
there's Larry.
I don't
Hi,
know.
Larry.
Oh, I'm taking behind the.
W-
I'm
w- w-
trying to get these working, but it's crazy.
So
Okay.
I'll ask you the same question. What do you think that a dog dreams about?
What do I think? What?
A dog dreams about. When a dog dreams, what do you think it's dreaming about?
Oh, man, the dog is dreaming about sniffing butts, and the dog,
Legend.
the dog is dreaming about running and chasing and cackling, and dogs should be football players. They really should be. They're great. Yeah,
But isn't it
yeah, I think that's
fascinating?
what they dream about. Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating, Jen? You probably concur this. When you have a dog, they're very good at picking up on people's, I don't know, unseen aura, if you want a better word. But they will like certain people, or they won't like other people. I think
Oh yeah,
that's a kind of judgment
yeah.
that us humans have kind of been lost in this world of like I've said before, we've been pushed into the digital world. We almost lost that ability. We just sort of see all
Right.
humans,
Right. You're absolutely right. It's incredible. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You guys, I'm trying to walk Raldo through getting onto the call, so forgive me for just a moment.
Yeah,
worry.
I had some issues, but I'm glad I'm on. That's great. Wow. Okay,
Larry.
let's see if I can. Yes.
I can see to your left or my right. Is that a mandolin you've got hanging on your wall?
Yes.
Oh wow!
Yes.
So tell me the story behind the mandolin. Where did you get it from? What
My kids bought it for me for my 70th birthday.
Nice.
And they looked all over for a nice mandolin, and they gave it to me. And if I sit back a little bit, oh good. So they gave it to me, and it's really a sweet instrument. I'm a guitar player, and the mandolin is tuned to a violin. It's like much more like a violin. Something like that.
Yeah, beautiful, man. So is it an old instrument or a new one?
It sounds great. I love the sound of different instruments. We used to, I had a rule. I spent 15 years in Mexico. And in Mexico, when you go to visit somebody, you walk in, and the first person that you say hello to is the dog.
Yep.
Understand?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And if the dog likes you, the family likes you, they love you, because the first person you talked to was the dog. You held out your hand, you let the dog sniff and everything. And as long as he doesn't grab your leg or, start sniffing your butt, he's a well-mannered dog. And so
Did you when you met a dog in Mexico? Did you speak Spanish to it or English?
Oh, you have to speak Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to speak Spanish to them. They adapt to us, and they're good. It's like any animal, but really, yeah, they adapt to us. Let's see if I can adjust this. There. Now you see my rotocopter head.
So I have to ask this then, for someone who's lived in Mexico for that many years, what is your highlight of nature? I'm not talking about people or situations. What's the one thing you've seen in Mexico of nature you thought, wow, that was mind blowing?
I went down to Mulegé, which is kind of an enclave in the Baja. It's a small town and it looks like prehistoric. It's just like a bunch of small town houses were put in a prehistoric scene. I mean, the mountains there, the the water there. It's a lot of inlets and stuff. And I went to take a closer look, and I saw trillions and trillions of little shells, individual little beings that were. So, light always seeks to take form, and and here is trillions and trillions and trillions of these characters that are taking form.
Nice, man. Oh,
Jennifer is going.
okay, Jen, cool. No, so, I mean, did you? What of all the animal kingdom would you say most impressed you? Because I mean, down in Mexico, they must have
Oh,
what?
the Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, what was in Mexico the most impressive? Because they got coyotes, I imagine, in Mexico. No?
Yeah, they got coyotes. I had a whole herd of feral cats at one point.
Okay.
And that was cool. We would jam. It was summer. We would jam. I'd leave the door open. The cats would be coming in, getting closer, and sitting and listening to the music. It was cool. So yeah, they're people too. I worked at a music repair shop one time, rental and repair, and the guy had a parakeet, and one day the parakeet sneezed, and the customer went, "Oh, did you see that? The parakeet just sneezed," and this owner that I worked for said, "Yeah, they're people too. They sneeze." So yeah, they're people too.
I mean, it's the fascinating balance between nature in the raw, which is red and blue blood and claw, as they say, compared to.
There you are.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've sometimes had discussions with people, and they get very sentimental about nature, and they think it's all like hugs and kisses everywhere, and it's like, man, you take a step outside the urban situation, and you see what nature's like in the red and claw, and it's, well, what's the saying that everything will kill you eventually?
It's phenomenal. Nature is phenomenal, and I don't know. Death is a great teacher, and when we learn the lesson, we will overcome death. But death tells you that life is precious. Number one. Number two, you can't take it with you. No. All the games you play down there, you can't take it with you. And what was three? I don't remember three. Maybe there are more. But death is a teacher, and we should learn the lessons. I learned this from death metal guys. But yeah, they have a viewpoint, and from their viewpoint, it's correct.
I mean, I've had this discussion with Jen before, but it always, in essence, amazes me how much the general population in 2022 have no idea of death. Death is put away into, care homes. It's pushed away from society. We're so removed from death in our Western comfortable lives. Now, I think it's probably unlike any time in history before, because if you go back 100 years, everyone would have seen death. You would have seen your children die. You would have seen your relatives die. If you go to parts of the world now, you see it everywhere. Like you would have seen this in Mexico. Death's treated. I love the way the Mexicans treat it. The Day of the Dead, and it's. But they have a like I said, they have a relationship with death and understand it's part of this cycle of life, nature.
Right.
Whereas we in the West, and especially in cities and urban combinations, big places, we're being pushed away from that, and it's kind of like you can live forever in the metaverse or something.
We're fighting for immortality. That's what we're supposed to do. But immortality doesn't come from plugging your brain into a computer. Immortality has to come through evolutionary means. It's like farmers have been cross-pollinating for forever. but severe genetic manipulation, like putting a salmon gene in a rice grain, that's they've gone too far, right? And they've gone too far because of Fauci and because of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So these people have gone too far, and I don't think they're going to get away with, a panic the next time. People are not going to panic the next time.
No, and that was what was fascinating about what we've been through for the last 2 years. That it was kind of like a little taste about, like you said, that the death is always there. But again, people just forget it all and just move on, and it's just the next question that is almost the initial question. Is like, if I offered you, immortality, would you take it? I mean, what human really would actually be able to comprehend what immortality would be like? I mean, people get bored after like 10 years, let alone living for 500 or 600.
I see, of course, egocentric idiots, like idiots in the tech field who are using blood, who are injecting blood, or, getting transfusions of blood from teenagers, old guys. I mean, this is like vampire zombie stuff, and people are fed up. It's not real.
A little Transylvania transfusion. A little Transylvania transfusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was saying, Jen, it's like, what human really could have. People are saying like humans have this desire for immortality, but if you actually sat down a human one-to-one in a room and said to them, okay, now tell me how many years you want to live. I mean, as I was saying, people get bored after 6-7 years of just doing the same monotonous job. I mean, I think it's a dream that humans have that's been sold to them in this digital world, but actually, as Larry was pointing out, death is part of nature and life, and it's something that humbles us all. And I don't think many humans could really actually deal with the reality of having 600 years on this planet.
Right. I mean, I guess marriage or immortality and marriage, kind of the same thing. Like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? But I don't mean to shit on marriage, but yeah, immortality. I don't know that I would want immortality in any way other than some piece of art or even the living, the life forms that I've put onto this planet. That's immortality for me. Writing a truly good book, writing a truly good song, right? Those are that's all the sort of immortality that I really desire, because I think that these assholes who are out there seeking immortality are just shitting all over the life part of the whole equation, and it is an equation.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic, Jim. I mean, we talk about immortality, and I've just had a message come up on this meeting saying we've got 5 minutes left, and it's like the machine doesn't know about immortality. But while we're on that, it reminded me of a quote that I was reading the other day from, and one of you, I know how much you admire the guy, but Hunter S. Thompson, and the quote was, "Morality is temporary, wisdom is permanent." Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts with what you just said. I mean, is it? Do you think that's since he wrote that quote? I think he wrote that quote in like 72 or 73. Do you think we've moved that much as a species that quote isn't true?
Oh no, I think that'll always remain true. And it's funny because when I was thinking about, the immortality compared to, a marriage contract thing, the first thing that came to my mind was in Hunter Thompson's voice, and it was his quote about what did he say? He said, "I feel the same way about something as I feel about herpes." I can't remember what the topic was, and so disco. It was disco. I feel the same way about disco that I feel about herpes. and I heard his voice saying it, and it's kind of like immortality is painted, as if it's going to be this this amazing, beautiful thing where you conquer all or whatever. And I don't know that it would be what anybody really thinks it is. It doesn't sound fun to me. I mean, what sounds fun to me is taking the life that I've been given, however long it is, and living the absolute shit out of it, and then letting any immortality be just of the memories of the life that I lived. Whether those are positive or negative, that's up to me.
Yep.
But even if I buy the rest of time, I can't make up for shitty behavior.
Uh,
I don't know.
I mean,
How I see it,
Go
how I
on.
see it is, okay, wisdom is any form of knowledge with a heart.
That's fair.
And we're talking about what?
Immortality.
Immortality, yes.
Well-
You are already immortal. You already are immortal. You're already bulletproof. The physicality is not immortal, but you are. And when we begin to see that, our grandchildren are going to be amazing. And our great grandchildren are going to blow our minds. So it's a natural cycle, but from ancient India, it says the most important thing is to remember. Remember who you are, remember where you came from,
Yeah. I mean, I've always taken inspiration from an old Buddhist saying, which basically said, when they were asked about reincarnation, they said, okay, we can discuss reincarnation, but they said the wisdom to learn from that thought process is that when you die, that your mind will travel to whatever's at your last thought. So if you're having the idyllic situation, you're lying in your bed and you're dying, and if all your thoughts are going through all the horrors you've done, all the wrongs you've done, your mind will slip into that in the next life. So that's why I said you should always live in the present and keep in the moment of humility and understand that life is suffering, it's an illusion. So that if you do happen to be hit by a car or struck by lightning, that last thought, the mind will take you to a better place. And I thought that's a very beautiful way of looking at life, of the balance between humility and living in the present and living with a sense of love rather than living in a sense of fear.
I agree. You're right. Thank you.
Look, as I said, Jen, I've literally got about 2 or 3 minutes left, and it's Zoom are really bad with it because they cut us off. So I'm gonna leave.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave you, Jen, and then I'm gonna leave Larry to have the last final word. But again, it's short but sweet. Maybe we can do another one after this. But short but sweet. Finish this one off. Give me your final words, both of you. Your final thoughts.
Oh, for me, I just I've recently walked away from a job and this sort of corporate kind of slavery, and now I'm in the woods writing, and I'll see you on the other side. Those are my final thoughts.
Beautiful. Larry?
Hey, I love you no matter what happens. That's my mantra.
Perfect, man. Perfect. And with that, I'm going to say life is people. Excellent.
Bye, guys.
Well, they say that life is people and that people are angels and that angels are devils and the devils are me and you.